gonna choose the hat.
Oh, right.
Oh,
the hat.
See,
Yes.
I think that something like this maybe, but maybe not with the American flag.
Yeah.
But
This is hip though, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah, I think it's
Very
both. I think it's both totally unhip. Like for me, like a middle-aged man, it's totally unhip. And for your woman, it's hip.
It's hip, yeah.
To wear it like this.
Got a big head. See what I mean?
I like that one as well.
Look, here's someone who is in her 30s. She's very into environmental stuff.
this is Sarah.
Maybe I'll just first ask, who are you?
I'm Sarah. Who wants to be next? You can be next.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Yeah, I think so.
Hello, Sarah.
Hello, how are you? Yeah,
I think you did a good job.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing
You
that.
did much better than me.
Maybe you can
Oh, yeah.
shuffle a little bit to the side.
Hello, I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you.
So how long have you been here now?
I've lived in Shetland for about 2 years now.
Is there anything, you obviously like Shetland, but is there anything that you think?
I don't like the wind. It's very noisy and my house rattles a lot. That took a lot of getting used to. It's quite scary.
We're all in charge of one scene, and my scene is where Sarah, our main character, arrives in Shetland. We went on the boat, and so we're going to show Sarah's development from being naive about green energy to understanding more of it. having a baked tofu, as a cliche thing that someone who's conscious about the environment and climate change would do. So it's a bit over the top maybe. It's to show this, that she's like me when I came here. I'm all happy about green energy and it's all fine. My name is Ernie Ramaker. I'm 44 years old and I'm a translator. Energy is a big topic on this island because we're in the middle of it. Since the 70s actually, since the oil came and the oil terminal was built and later the gas plant. So Shetland has always been on the forefront of energy production.
The oil had much less impact for the value it gave to the community in Shetland. So if you look at the impact of the wind farm on the community and the value they get from it, hardly any value, huge impact. Oil, very low impact, huge value. It's externalized. We've offset that impact elsewhere around the globe. But was it Shetland directly? No, everyone else burnt it. It's the scope 3 emissions sort of argument. That's not ours. That was done further down the line. Yeah. We're Shell. We didn't burn it. However, pretty good at burning it.
Energy is a big topic here because there is, it's being built at the moment. It's one of the biggest construction projects in the UK at the moment to build 103 huge turbines, wind turbines. They're being built along the top of several ridges in the centre of Shetland. And we've been told that it is on peat that has degraded. But to get to them, they've had to build roads and such like, and not all of that will be across degraded peat. It will be across, and peat, of course, is a carbon sink. It's one of the most important carbon sinks that we have. You break up the peat, it releases this carbon into the air, which increases global warming. And you find yourself thinking, that's fine. We're having this wind turbines to sort of combat global warming by not using fossil fuels, but we're breaking up this carbon sink in order to get those. I can't balance that out. And their daughter and her sort of, nodded at each other. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good idea. That was the thinking behind that scene. I'm Les Sinclair. I was born in Shetland. I grew up down south, but I came back when I left school, and I have lived here almost all of my life, apart from going to university and working for about 3 years in the Glasgow area. I was a secondary school teacher. I am also a comedian. I do stand-up comedy and improvised comedy, where we make it up on the spot. And now that I'm retired, I'm also a tour guide. I'm of the opinion that the energy should be nationalised. Yeah, and be a service. At the moment, they're a business. They're there not to serve the people. They're there to make money for the shareholders.
Being expected to carry the burden for lots of other communities, I think, is disproportionate. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I just think there's a disproportionate kind of burden being placed on largely remotely, geographically remote communities, and their resources are being exploited.
Shetland is not responsible for the energy transition of the UK.
Yeah. And I think it's going to result in, well, it's going to depopulate Shetland, which is at odds with what the council wants. I mean, people aren't going to be able to live in certain areas.
Oh, what the Shetlanders themselves want. They want to live here.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Yeah, but there's going to be parts of Shetland which are going to become uninhabitable. In my view.
Net zero is a religion with little basis in reality. We can tell this by the way believers deal with unbelievers. They're not to be listened to or engaged with, but instead to be marginalized, ridiculed, and even silenced. This is a dangerous state of affairs, as the faithful are only affirmed in their ideas, never challenged, and thus lack a reality check. They can go forward with their unreasonable and destructive agenda unhindered. As it is now, everything else is to be sacrificed on the altar of climate change and net zero, and we're all going to die if it's not done exactly how they tell us it should be done. This makes it a special type of religion, a doomsday cult.
I think the energy transition should be easy in Shetland. There's energy everywhere here. There's loads of wind and even sun on a day like this. We've got the tides. I think we should be able to do stuff. Natural energy resource everywhere you go here. Wind and tide, they affect us really strongly. Even sunshine affects us today. And Shetlanders, we have a history of innovating tech solutions, especially in energy, and we've got polycarbs. That's recycling waste materials to make something super strong and able to help us grow plants, give us heat. We're doing that. And our fishing and aquaculture fleets are Europe's best.
The energy transition should not be implemented top-down without regard to anything else. Solutions should and can be found that are tailored to specific locations and that benefit not only the climate, but local communities and nature as well. And not in the form of religion, but as pragmatic, realistic solutions.
we also have very strong experiences in the legacy energy systems. So I just wish more people would take time to play with the natural world, to experiment with renewable energies resources in novel ways, and to bring nature-based and nature-inspired solutions into the energy crisis. I wish more people could get time to play with the natural world like this. I'm a tech evangelist. I see opportunities for certainly. Well, I know that the business opportunities for your likes of your oil exploiters and what have you, with Viking, so much of it being about extraction and continuation of fossil fuels. I think that's the most disgusting element. Also, the community being dropped out of the projects. I think that's a disgrace. But I think net zero isn't even enough of a religion. I think we need to go beyond zero. I think we need to go negative, quite frankly, because human influence on the globe is got to be obvious. With the amount of carbon we spew out per car, per person, you look at that as a column of air above you, and you can't deny the effects that has for the area we take up. You look at the atmosphere is not as thick as people imagine. It's a pretty thin skin of the Earth. Humans cover a lot of that surface. I just think we do have to take responsibility, but we can do it a lot better ways.
Do you think we're generally being too conservative with regard to pushing innovation and trying to find other?
Yeah, so solar is cheaper. Solar is already cheaper than fossil fuels.
Okay. Because my impression is there's these fixations that have happened. There's something works, something does this, and we'll just do it, rather than continually pushing to find other technologies.
Shareholders are happy to sit on cash.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
The structure of what we value is unfortunately cash, which is shit for eating. It's not good for camp under it.
Like, so the way research is done in universities at the moment is just tiny little bitwise reports and stuff, so that you just incrementally you write a report based on what your predecessors wrote or what you wrote a few months ago, and there's no major works done anymore. There's no big discoveries. It's all, you have to publish and publish and publish. There's such a huge demand on that nobody's making big efforts and big breakthrough work. People don't have time to do large study breakthrough work. I'm Roderick Reed, and I'm a few days away from being 48. Oh no, is it? Yeah, 48. I'm that old, I've lost count. And I'm an airborne wind energy developer. So I make flying wind turbines, which is like the wind turbines they're doing here, but 2.0.
Roddy talked about the community ownership of a wind farm on the island that he's from.
So my personal thing was having seen wind farms go up at home and having started, and people are saying, okay, this one's really bad, but then actually the community got together and bought, they got funding, they got a loan to buy this wind farm, but then the return from those three is 30 times more value to the community per megawatt than the other one over the moor, and it's just like, why would you not do that as a community? You make an absolute bucket load of money. It always comes down to scales and involvement, and so like the community had an involvement, but then they were pulled out, and so I think that really bites for a lot of people. That.
We've never had a referendum. We've never had anything other than consultations, which have felt like a sham. We still continue to get consultations with different bits and bobs that are going on with the development and things that are needed. But I've been to some, it doesn't feel that there's any impact that the various voices that we bring to it will have. So it's kind of a futile exercise.
The idea is great. The idea behind using wind has always been there in Shetland, and it's such an important part of Shetland itself, and we definitely have to use that for something, whether it's onshore wind farms or offshore wind farms. In that idea, Viking energy is a good idea. But another thing I do wish is it was more kind of community owned than how it is now. My name is Sanjeev Prasad. I'm 16 years old and I'm a student at Anderson High School. I'm in S5. I moved to Shetland about 2.5 years ago. I think as a young person, I'm kind of the most hopeful or most optimistic out of everyone in the group. I don't have a completely negative opinion on Viking energy. So my whole kind of idea was the cost of living crisis right now. Energy is so expensive and it's not sustainable right now, and that's causing lots of grown-ups to be kind of stressed out or worried, and especially when they have to look after children and pay for other things and rent and food and heating and all of that. But I want people to have more hope for the future, and I think young people can kind of put more hope into grown-ups.
Just to be within a distance less than 2 kilometers of one is bad enough, but those homes will be within 2 kilometers of more than one.
Right, got you. So we'd be sitting here looking at them.
Oh, yes, probably yes. I mean, I'm worried about where I live. every time I drive towards the construction area, I start to feel anxious in anticipation of seeing the scars in the landscape. The roads they're building are getting bigger, they're getting wider, they're visibly wider now than they used to be, so there's always a bit of a surprise and a shock. A lot of new fencing. They try to collect silt, green things that you can see that alert you to their presence. A lot of traffic cones. They have quarries, they blast, so there's big gashes in the sides of the hills that appear. Well, they have diggers and lorries, piles of earth, peat, so I get distressed at the quantities of peat that I see dug up. I'm Roxane Permar, and I am an artist, a visual artist. I also work in a university. I work at UHI Shetland. So the scene was very personal, very much to do with my journey and my awareness of the creeping invasion that this construction has made, and I have very strong feelings about it. I felt that it was very invasive. It was like an invading army initially. I felt it was a rape of the landscape. I felt pain with it. I felt it was very devastating. I think it's not fair to expect parts of the world that aren't heavily populated and are more remote and richer in some natural resources than others to solve the problems for all the rest of the world. I think that we have to do better at getting a balance so that all communities take responsibility. I think we've tended, particularly since COVID, to get even more locked into our own small groupings, and we talk to people that share our views. At least I'm guilty of that. And I was hoping I'd get to talk to people or get to listen to people who have a different experience and a different take on the energy transition. It's also been really lovely to see the nuanced thinking that everybody has, and as a group there's a lot of nuance, and also I don't feel so alone.
We all be doing what we can to save the world, but then not on this scale, not with this destruction. It's going to ruin the whole world in our effort to keep energy going. Shouldn't it be small? Shouldn't it be a smaller wind farm? Why is it so big? Why have they made it so massive? Why have they destroyed the landscape? Why are they ruining our whole entire world? Surely there must be a better way. Why does it have to be like this? The Viking energy wind farm is far too big. It's far too grand on a scale for such a tiny place. This is supposed to be a beautiful place for people to live. Why are they making it so awful? Why are they destroying the whole entire landscape? What am I supposed to do? Do I have any power? Do I have any responsibility? What's supposed to be my role in all of this? Should I make some kind of choice? Can I speak to anyone? But nobody's listening. Nobody's listening to anything that anybody has to say. Am I the only one that's feeling like this? I'm completely isolated, totally on my own, and I can't do anything to help. help? I just have to watch it all be completely destroyed. What kind of world is my daughter going to grow up in when the whole world is covered by these hideous, horrible wind farms that are destroying our entire landscape, destroying the wildlife, destroying the world, destroying everything around us? I'm scared and I don't know what to do. Surely there must be
She's the last person left, and she's giving up.
Really, it was just about the instant ability to be able to pull stuff out of an energy abundance sort of sky, just to have stuff delivered.
So that was the idea behind my future scene, where there's a desolation that's left, and the character of Sarah is thinking of what has been lost. That this is gone, this has been lost, it's no longer there. The picture book, the photographic album, again, is reflecting on your past, and what it used to be like, what there was before. This is what we had, and we blew it.
Shetland will lose its cultural heritage, it'll lose its identity, it will.
to the wind, I hear it calling. We pour oil on troubled water, but with every cloud passing by, a silver lining appears in the sky. We are like birds of a feather that fly together. Between the devil and the deep blue sea, between the devil and the deep blue sea, oh, between